ladies and gentlemen, the audience of Faculty Conference 2025. As been announced before, I am Indri Astuti, and I'm really grateful to be your moderator in these sessions with Karolina. And finally, we see you again, Caroline, after long times. Yeah?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, Caroline, are you in Phuket, Thailand? Yeah?
Oh, yes. Currently, yes. I'm in Thailand. Yes.
Okay. So she still go around the world.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Happy audience. Today's topic from Caroline is molecular biology, genetics, and biotechnology and its application in life. So this one is relating biology with the and the functions in daily lives.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
Caroline. Yeah. So hopefully that all of us uh, can take the benefits from her presentations. But before the presentation, I would like to read Carolina's curriculum vitae. So it starts with the educations. Uh, Caroline's got her master in applied biology at University of Environmental and Life Sciences in 2010. And then she also got clinical dietetics from Witska Schola Sistalsenia Sawadowigo. I am sorry if I make mistake in pronouncing that one. In 2022. And then GAPS diet coach from Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride's GAPS clinics in 2021. And then from her profile, we can see that she is particularly interested in leveraging evidence-based practices and approaches to enhance physical, emotional, and mental health and to unlock the full potential of individuals. He is also contribute to the advancements of health and human performance while fostering holistic, sustainable well-being. And then from her work experience, as I told you just now, that Caroline has traveled around the world. Yeah, she worked at ISPS Trauma Therapy and then Open Wings Ltd, Kozielska Patana Phuket, Thailand. This one is in 2023 and 2024. And then also Vitaya Satit Phuket, Thailand. Some of them from in Thailand, yeah. And then Vietnam. And then in 2015, she worked at Muhammadiyah University of Jember, Indonesia, and this one is our university. So this one is really a kind of what is that? A wonderful thing that we meet you again. Hopefully that you can come again to our university. Okay, that's all about Caroline's. Oh, sorry. So this one is still about the education. Uh, very long. Yeah, so I think that one is also already uh, been told, and then the language she speaks are English and Polish because she is from Thailand. Caroline, we have a bit long duration for these sessions. We will end at 10 a.m. And then for the audience, I would like to inform you that this session will be divided into two sessions. The first one is presentation. So Caroline, you have 1 hour for presentations and then 30 minutes for question and answer. Yeah, for the happy audience, you may write your question on the chat box, be informed with that. And then you can also enjoy your coffee and snacks while listening to Caroline's presentation. Caroline, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. Just
Okay,
give me a
good. You are.
moment. Mhm.
If you are ready, the screen is yours. Okay, enjoy your coffee.
Thank you. Thank you. I will have a sip from time to time. Okay, give me a second because I have some information from Zoom here. Okay, I think,
Okay,
can you hear
sure.
me? Correct? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Me?
It's very
Okay.
clear.
Okay. Let me try to share my screen with you. Okay, can you see my screen?
On the way,
On the way, okay.
on the way. Yeah, okay, we can see your screen.
Okay, let me just press one more button. So maybe screen. Okay. All right. You can hear me, you can see me, and you can see my screen, yes? Because I cannot see you at the moment.
Yes.
Okay, so let me start. Good morning, everyone. My name is Karolina. I come from Poland. I have a master's degree in applied biology, and I will speak today for about an hour about the topic that you can see right now on the screen, which is molecular biology, genetics, and biotechnology. And also, I would say the most important applications of these three. However, just before I start, I want to say that these are quite difficult and very vast areas of science. So I'm going to speak only about the basics here. And before we start, I want you all to imagine that you have a big balloon in front of you. So I will sometimes add, let's say, some small exercises because this will help to understand what we're talking about. So imagine that you have a balloon, and this is going to represent a cell, a singular cell that our bodies and pretty much every single living organism is built of. So a balloon represents a cell, and imagine that inside this one balloon there is another balloon which is smaller. And the smaller balloon is going to represent the nucleus, which is the headquarter, let's say, of everything that is happening in the cell, but also in the body. So just keep in mind these two balloons. There is a bigger one and there is a smaller one inside the bigger one. Now, every single organism that is on this planet except viruses is built this way. And also except bacteria, but I'm going to speak very shortly about it in a moment. Why is it important to know? Because based on this basic, I would say, structure, we can understand why life is the way it is. And also, once we understand this, we can also understand the mechanisms behind life and all the manipulations that we can do with life and how far we can go in certain areas of, I would say, science. Now, in general, all cells are divided into two types. This is not on the slide, but just to let you know. So we have bacteria, which are called prokaryota, and they are very different to us because they don't have the small balloon inside the big balloon. We have it, but they don't have it. They have a circular nucleic acid inside, which is their headquarter. Let's say that directs all the functions of the bacteria. And it's very simple, it's very small, and it's very easy to manipulate. So we can do a lot with bacteria. That's why bacteria are many times used in science as a tool. So they are not only bad, but they also can be, I would say, of big help for us. And this round, let's say, nucleic acid is called plasmid. I'm going to get back to it later in my presentation. Some names might sound a bit weird. I hope not too complicated and not too weird. So just remember that bacteria are somewhere else. They are prokaryota. They multiply very quickly, and also they have this round nucleic acid at their headquarters. We are different. We belong to eukaryota, which is basically a different type of cell. So we have the big balloon, and inside the big balloon, there is a smaller balloon, the nucleus. And pretty much all living organisms on our planet are built the same way. Plants, us, fungi, so we have the nuclear, I would say, headquarter. And this is going to be also important later on. And then we have viruses, but this is like a completely different topic. Their structure is different. We cannot actually put them in living organisms because they are not alive, but also they're not completely dead. So we categorize them as something completely separate. They can also be used in science as, I would say, certain tools. And there is also a theory in biology that evolution happened mostly because of viruses, because there are the way they are built, the way they function is completely different to everything else on this planet. Yeah, but I'm gonna get back to this a bit later. So this is like a very, I would say, first foundation for what we're gonna learn now. I'm going to talk briefly about molecular biology, genetics, and biochemistry, but every single one of them I will discuss shortly. So I will start with molecular biology. So molecular biology is a very, I would say, vast area of science, even though this is already quite specific. But here we learn about molecules, and molecules are basically, I would say, chemicals that build not only life, but everything. In this presentation, we're going to focus on the living molecules like proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and nucleic acids. So basically, we are built of these 4 macromolecules. I'm going to repeat them just for us to remember. So we have nucleic acids like DNA and RNA. I'm going to discuss them a bit later. We have proteins, we have carbohydrates, and we have fats. I hope we are kind of familiar with the names from maybe our biology lessons, maybe from primary or high school. And once we understand how these molecules are built and how they, let's say, behave, we can also understand how life works. It sounds maybe weird, but literally, once we understand small behaviors of these molecules, we can not only understand how our bodies work, but also we can predict what can happen. And many of these can also, many of the functions and mechanisms, what is kind of strange, but can also give us information about psychology, why people function the way they function psychologically, because life in general is based on biology. And also, what's fascinating, psychology is also based on biology. But again, I will get back to it a bit later. Now, let's focus solely on proteins. So imagine that you have our body, the human body. So 70% of our body is made of water. If we take out all the water from our body, we have something that is called dry mass. So the water is out, we have what's left, and then I would say around like 80-90% of what's left, it's proteins. Proteins in general are quite complicated macromolecules, let's just call them molecules, and they have a few extremely important functions in the body. So as you can see in the pictures, one of them is, they work as digestive enzymes, and they help facilitate chemical reactions. So whenever you eat something, it can be an apple, it can be yogurt, can be a piece of chicken, can be a bowl of rice. Whatever you have on your plate, it has to go through our digestive system. And now the system works not only, but mostly because of the proteins that our body secretes to the digestive system. So the food can be broken down into smaller pieces. Certain reactions can happen. We can absorb the food and use it as either fuel or, let's say, building materials. This whole process is quite complicated, but for example, when we eat an apple that mostly consists of sugars, of carbohydrates, the digestive process already starts in our mouth. So we secrete something that is called amylase, which is a protein that can break down certain sugars. So the digestion already starts in our mouth and then continues all the way through our digestive system. And then we can absorb the vitamins from the apple. We can absorb the nutrients, even the water. So our body basically uses what it needs, and the waste is going to be removed the way we all know. The next one, one of the most important functions of the proteins are the antibodies. So imagine, let me take an example, as an example, COVID, right? That happened like not long ago. So basically, we can call COVID as an antigen, which is a pathogen that enters our body. Our body is constantly, I would say, attacked by various bacteria, viruses, parasites, also toxins from the air, from the water we drink. It's pretty much all the time everywhere. We cannot live in a sterile environment, which is also good because we also have to be protected by, let's say, okay, sorry, let me put it the other way around. So our body also is built of different microbes. It's not only our own cells, but microbial cells. They are bacteria. They can be also different, I would say, more organized forms of maybe not parasites, but let's say smaller organisms, and they also help us. We also have fungi, lots of different types of fungi in our bodies, and they are not necessarily bad. They can help us in many different ways. This is like the newest, I would say, science that probably is going to develop in a major way in the next 10 years, because already we have many, many different breakthroughs in this area. So this is just like, let's say, a small portion of information here. So every single time we have a pathogenic, I would say, bacteria, virus, or even a toxin that enters our body, our body actually creates something that is called antibodies. So this is built of protein, and that can bind with the antigen, and our immune system can take care of it, which means it's going to either be broken down and removed, or it's going to be killed and then eaten by our cells, and then the waste is going to be basically removed from the body. So this one is really, really important. Our immune system is working all the time, 20 a day, because without it, we would simply, we would not be here. So this one is really, really crucial. Our immune system is extremely, I would say, developed. It's very complicated, and it has so many different functions that sometimes we don't even understand yet in science. Okay, the next one is here, as you can see in the picture, we have DNA. This one is not RNA, this is DNA. So this is like a very simple representation of DNA. So proteins help support the regulation and expression of DNA. So imagine when we had the big balloon, right? When I was talking about at the very beginning, then there is the smaller balloon, and the smaller balloon consists of DNA in our body. So DNA is like all the information stored, let's say, that it looks like this, and then we can use it, and we actually use it all the time to do all the functions that our body needs to do to actually live. So it's extremely important to have it because of this, we can actually do everything that we do. Now I will just, maybe I will mention it now. However, I wanted to say it a bit later, but please remember this. So back in the, I think, 90s, there was an experiment, I think done by Bruce Lipton, but I'm not sure if he was the one who performed the experiment. So he was a cell biologist, and what he was trying to test or maybe prove was how important was our DNA and the nucleus, the smaller balloon, right? So back in the days, people, the scientists actually were completely sure that this is the most important part of the cell, and if we remove that small balloon from the bigger balloon, the cell will die. So basically, without the small balloon, there is no life anymore. So that man wanted to see if that is actually correct. And what he did, in a very friendly environment, he actually removed the small balloon from the bigger balloon. And guess what happened? Nothing happened. The cell was still alive and was alive for quite a long time. And it turned out that the cell can live without the nucleus, cannot, of course, multiply if the environment is friendly. However, if there is something happening in the environment, for example, there is an attack from a virus or a bacteria, or there is a toxin in the environment, of course, the cell cannot protect itself, so the cell will die. But that basically that experiment proved that the nucleus is not as important as pretty much the whole world thought. Now, he performed another experiment, and this one was about the membranes. So imagine that you have the balloon, right? And the balloon actually, we can see the balloon because it has its membrane, right? We can see the size of the balloon because of the, let's say, the rubber that the balloon is made of. Once the membrane is destroyed, the balloon doesn't exist anymore, right? There is no balloon. The same thing happens to the cell. Once we destroy the membrane, it turns out that the cell cannot exist anymore. It dies. So it turned out that the membrane can be even more important for the cell to live than the nucleus, than the smaller balloon. Of course, if the cell wants to multiply, as I said before, we need the nucleus, but for the simplest existence, the cell is the crucial part of the the membrane is the crucial part, the most crucial part of the cell. Proteins also build cells. They build them with lipids, but I'm gonna get back to it a bit later. Next one. So because we are still talking about proteins, so proteins also support muscle contraction and movement, right? So we all know when we move, we need our muscles. Without muscles, there is no movement. The newest science, actually, I think the research was done not really long ago, maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 years ago. It turned out that our, let's say, lifespan mostly depends on the muscle mass that we have in our bodies. So we can have a healthy diet, but as long as our muscle mass is, I would say, big enough, our lifespan is going to be longer than usual. That's why exercising is not only for having, let's say, good health right now, but this is actually like something that we can do to expand our lifespan, to prolong our life and to actually feel better. Okay, next one. Provide support. Proteins provide support to the body. This is like there is so many different functions of proteins. So it can be, the support can happen through so many different channels. So for example, if we have a membrane, imagine that the balloon, the membrane actually is not completely, I would say, detaching what's inside from the outside. There are small channels actually built of proteins that can work as, I would say, canals. So many different particles can go through the channels inside the cell, and they can also leave the cell. So this is also very important because all the communication between the cells and the tissues, and actually the body fluids and the cells happen through these channels that are built of proteins. Next one is hormones here. I hope we've all heard about hormones. So these are certain molecules that regulate what's happening in the body. So for example, we have insulin that regulates our sugar level. Then we have sex hormones like progesterone, then we have estrogen. So when a woman gets pregnant, they change the level and they help to sustain pregnancy. Then we have cortisol and adrenaline. So for example, if there is any kind of threat, like all of a sudden we encounter a lion or maybe a snake, and we know that we have to run away, there is going to be let's say an extra release of adrenaline, maybe cortisol. So our muscles are going to work differently. Our mind will focus on, let's say, running away or basically hiding. So hormones regulate what's happening in the body. They go pretty much everywhere, and they always should be in balance, because if they are not in balance, then we can have certain issues. And mostly hormones are built of proteins. Also, some of them, they have like a lipid, which is like a fatty addition, but we're going to talk about it later. And the last one here in the picture is, this is HB, which is a short for hemoglobin. Hemoglobin, I think it's on the next slide, so I'm going to talk about it a bit more. So this is a molecule that is essential for our life. Because hemoglobin is a protein that can transport oxygen. So without oxygen, nothing can happen in the body. I mean, oxygen is needed for us to produce energy. So without this, yeah, we cannot really do much. And so, for example, if someone has low hemoglobin, we know that this is called anemia in medicine. So the level of hemoglobin should be always like in a very specific range. Too much hemoglobin can be also very dangerous. Too low, also dangerous. So it should be in a very, very specific range, just to keep our body, I would say, supplied with oxygen. One second. Yeah, I think hemoglobin slide was after the next one. So let me just give you a few more info here. So hemoglobin is a quite complex protein, and the major function, as I said, is to carry oxygen molecules around the body, but also it can take carbon dioxide and basically it's like a waste. So basically it will take it back to other tissues. It needs iron molecules in it, but again, iron is a very reactive metal, and if we have too much iron, if we have too much hemoglobin, it can cause also damage to the body, and it can also cause like cardiovascular disease. So I'll give you an example that I'm not sure if it's still happening, but in ancient Egypt, let's say a few thousand years ago, many men, because men usually have a higher level of iron because they don't, men don't menstruate, right? So they don't lose blood every month. So men had like a lot of, I would say, hemoglobin in their blood. So what they used to do, they used to release, let's say, some of the blood. Basically, they used, I think, leeches. So they put some on their forearms, on the legs, just to get rid of, I would say, extra blood, because they realized, they didn't understand what was happening in the body, but they knew that excessive amounts of iron, of hemoglobin, could be very dangerous, especially for men. Women are in a way protected because of our menstruation, so we usually have the other issue, right? We don't have enough hemoglobin, we don't have enough iron, and that's why we are, many women are quite anemic, so many times they have to either supplement or they have to do something to increase the level of hemoglobin. Okay, so that would be the proteins. So this is like the, I would say, the most fundamental functions of proteins. There is more, but these are the most basic ones. The next part is, the next, I would say, group is fats. Many people are really afraid of fats. That is quite funny because let's say I've met many people in my life, and most of them, for some strange reason, are really scared of fats, and people in general think that fats are bad. I think mostly maybe because of the media and some kind of, I don't want to say propaganda, but fats kind of got this reputation of being very harmful to the body. However, they are actually extremely essential, and without them, again, we could not live. Why are they so important? So we're going to get back to that balloon. Remember the balloon, the big balloon, and even the smaller balloon, right? So they are built of a membrane, and this is a semi-selective membrane. And this membrane is actually in a major percentage built of fats. If this membrane, if the structure of the membrane is not built properly, we are going to face a lot of health issues. This is that important. Now, our brain as well is built in 60% of fat. And here I'm going to highlight the importance of cholesterol, because I know also many people in the world are like extremely scared of cholesterol. Cholesterol is extremely crucial for our health, and especially for our brain. When we have small children, they should eat a lot of cholesterol because the cholesterol will build their brain. So for example, egg yolks, butter, anything that is, I'm talking about animal fats, that has like good cholesterol is going to enhance cognitive functions of the brain. I've read some article that was, I don't remember exactly the year, but it was also like recent science, recent research. And I think that was in Mongolia, where certain, they are not maybe tribes because they have proper connection to civilization, but these people live in very rural areas, and they really don't eat plants. They mostly drink and eat yak products. Yak is a big animal that, let's say, similar to cow. These children, they drink a lot of milk. They eat a lot of cheese made from that milk, and also they eat a lot of really fatty meats. And it turned out that their IQ, I think, was the highest, even though they did not go to like top universities in the world. But when they measured these kids' IQ, it turned out that it was absolutely over the top. And then it turned out that their brain functions were above average. My best friend's, this is like a small anecdote. So basically my best friend's baby, he's a toddler right now. So he's 1.5 years old, soon to be 2. She sometimes sends me videos that the boy actually is eating butter, like with a spoon. And basically the boy develops really well. He had like his regular checkup with a doctor and also a psychologist, and the psychologist and doctor said that the boy is above average, and basically the boy has really good diet and eats a lot of animal fats. Okay, so that is one thing. Also, imagine that when we have our nervous system, right? So the brain and the spinal cord, all the nerves, right? They are everywhere in our body. That's why we can actually move, talk, do all these things that we do. This is mostly built of fats. This is really, really important, because if we understand that and we understand how the fats are built, then we can understand how important it is to actually incorporate good quality fats. And I will tell you later which ones are the good quality and which ones are not so good, or maybe even toxic. So as I said before, fats also work as a structural component of cells, right? So the membrane, imagine again, the balloon, right, is made of that. Then we have certain vitamins like K, E, D, A. So these vitamins can be absorbed in the presence of fats. I would say vitamin D probably is the most important. I don't remember specifically, but I think around 1,000 to 2,000 different chemical reactions happening in the body depend on the presence of this vitamin. And I know that in Asia there is this movement that people want to have white skin. They actually run away from sunlight because they don't want their skin to be dark. However, for this vitamin to be produced in the body, this is crucial. We need to be exposed to sunlight. So when we have cholesterol, the molecule of cholesterol, which is quite complicated, when we go outside during the day and we expose our skin to sunlight, there is a chemical reaction that happens in the cells, which turns cholesterol molecule into vitamin D. So that's why it is so important to actually expose our skin, at least for a bit, to sunlight, because this transformation can happen, and then the processes, the chemical processes in the body can happen as well. Many people also take supplements like D3 plus K2 because there is not enough let's say vitamin D in the body. People do not have a good diet, and that can have a tremendous consequences for the body. For example, the bone structures can not let's say sustain sometimes the pressure, and then bones become weaker. That happens mostly let's say to older people. I think in the past in Europe, it was, I mean, people had to take these supplements. Right now, especially kids in school, right now, it's not happening anymore, but I think the awareness is like growing and people actually talk about vitamin D more and more. Again, like for me, this one is quite important, maybe the most important of these four. The others are also very important. This one, vitamin E, works as an antioxidant. So when we have toxins from, let's say, the outside world, this vitamin actually helps to detoxify the body. Vitamin A is very popular for like having good eyesight. This one also helps with certain, I would say, reactions that happen with vitamin D together. And then we have here. So basically, fats also help our cardiovascular system to stay healthy. This one might come as a surprise because we are taught, or maybe still medicine is not updated, like medical books. I don't know why it takes a long time for medical books to get updated. So basically the newest research shows already something different that doctors or maybe even scientists were taught long ago. So basically we think that cholesterol again is a bad thing. Actually, cholesterol is really important because cholesterol also fixes certain structures in our body. So if there is anything going on, any inflammation, any, let's say, an injury inside our body will send cholesterol to that area, and cholesterol will also do some, let's say, repairing in that area. So we need to have cholesterol in our body. However, it should not be oxidized. Why does it get oxidized? Because we eat too much carbohydrates. That's why it gets oxidized, and then it can, let's say, it can be quite toxic to the body, but this is another topic. And also fats are, can be a source of energy, or are a source of energy. Now, this one is becoming more and more popular because of the keto diet, I would say, fame. So keto diet basically relies on fats as a source of energy. And I would say 100, maybe over 100 years ago, keto diet was used mostly in mental clinics or certain hospitals to treat epilepsy, because they figure out that basically if someone has this disease and we switch the diet to the keto diet, all of a sudden the nervous system does not react the same way. The person calms down, and all the episodes of epilepsy basically do not happen as often, or they're gone. There is more and more research, luckily, pretty much everywhere right now, I think in the entire world, about the keto diet, which I think is very beneficial because on this particular diet, the brain functions much better. The brain, people actually report that their way of thinking is much clearer, much faster. The cognitive functions are also way more increased. It's called in dietetics like clean fuel. much cleaner than, I would say, carbohydrates. So yeah, this is getting more and more popular, in my opinion. Really, that's really good, because in general, that should benefit many people around the world, and there should be soon a bigger shift in many different societies. So people should get healthier. But again, that takes usually some time. I would say, I would estimate a decade for people to actually get familiar with it, and then to accept it. All right, let's move on to the next one. Carbohydrates, these are probably the most well recognized, well known. So we all know sugar, right? So let's say this is probably the most abundant macromolecule in the world. However, I wouldn't say as a dietitian this is the healthiest, quite the opposite. But carbohydrates also have lots of functions. So for example, glucose, this is probably the most known carbohydrate in the world. So basically, it helps us produce energy. So imagine that ATP, this is like an energy currency. So glucose actually helps to produce ATP, and then we can do a lot of different functions in the body. Also, glucose can work as a energy storage. So for example, if we have too much glucose, this is going to be stored as glycogen in our liver. That's for animals, and humans belong to the animal world. And then we have the second one, which is all the starches, because there is not only one starch, but all the starches basically consist of glucose. So this is like a more complex form of glucose that can store energy in a form of, let's say, starch, like we can find it in corn, potatoes, yams, anything that has this, I think taro as well. Rice as well has starch. So basically, this is like a more complex form of glucose. Glucose has 6 atoms of carbon. So basically, it's quite simple. The structure is quite simple, but then when it builds, let's say, different types of starches, it gets more and more complicated. But then once we eat it, it's going to be broken down again to the simplest form. So it can go back to its simplest form, which is glucose, and then it can be transformed into ATP. So we have energy. And the last one is, the last function is building, carbohydrates actually are building macromolecules. So they work as I would say, the fundamental structure of DNA, RNA, and ATP. So I will show you in a picture in a second that the basic part is built of sugar. Okay, I think we all know that, 1 second. Yes, 1 moment. That carbohydrates actually can, they give us energy, and carbohydrates can be found pretty much everywhere. So for example, we all know table sugar, right? So for example, if we add a spoon of table sugar, this is the table sugar, which is called sucrose. It's gonna have 2 different components. So 50% of it is built of or consists of glucose. The other one is fructose. So we have 50-50 glucose and fructose. They have a different metabolic pathway. Now, just I would like you to remember this. Fructose is very toxic to the body. It has a different metabolic pathway. It doesn't have the same one as glucose. The metabolism has to go through the liver. So the more we eat fructose, the more, I would say, overwhelmed our body is, and the more problems we can have. So many times we think that eating like an excessive amount of fruit could be good to the body. Please remember that the fruit that we have right now are very different to the fruit that were on this planet 100, 200 years ago. They were not as sweet. Right now, because of the, let's say, engineering, and certain, I would say, manipulations, the fruit that we have are way more sweet than the ones that were here a century ago, which means that the amount of fructose we incorporate with this fruit is excessive. And many times people don't even know they can they can have something that is that in medicine is called the fatty liver. So, for example, fatty liver. Imagine that you have a liver. It's like on the. If you cannot see me because the camera is a bit too high. So our liver is bigger than our hand, right? It's on the right side of our body. It's the one of the biggest organs in our body, and there's like so many different biochemical reactions happening. So this organ specifically has to be in a good shape. Now, if we eat too much, especially fructose, this organ has like an excessive amount of work to do. And if that happens constantly all the time, what happens to the liver? Fructose actually turns into fat, and the liver is going to change its structure. It's going, like when you take, what is it called? USG, like a scan, you will see in two different pictures when we have in the first one, let's say healthy liver, and the second one, a fatty liver, that the color is different. So the fatty liver is going to be bigger because in between the cells, there's going to be molecules of fat. And also on the outside layer, there's going to be fat. And it's very difficult for this liver to perform all its functions. And it can also lead to another stage, or let's say liver cancer. Sometimes it's possible to surgically remove it, but I don't think it makes much sense because basically the root for this is pretty much diet. So that usually happens in two cases. One is the alcoholic cause of this disease. So people who drink excessive amounts of alcohol will deliver fatty liver, but also people who eat excessive amounts of fructose, which means if they eat too much, I would say sugar, too much fruit that are very high in fructose, like grapes right now. I think grapes like have an extremely high amount of fructose. Also, yeah, the genetically engineered fruit that they are really, really too sweet. So in general, I would say like be kind of careful if you can with this, because the general, let's say, knowledge, like you can call it knowledge, is like fruit are very healthy. This is not, I would say, completely true. They have vitamins, they have like really good functions, they have a lot of fiber, but also if we eat it excessively, it can lead to a fatty liver and a lot of issues. People, I mean, the body can also get intoxicated with fructose. And again, this is the most toxic sugar amongst others. Okay, and this one we already had. Okay, so this one is like a summary of all the macromolecules. So let me just quickly, here we will have one more nucleic acids, but I just want to show you the structure. So we have four of them, as I said before. We have carbohydrates, lipids, fats. Then we have nucleic acids and proteins. Let me just give you a brief introduction to nucleic acids. So we have two types. So we have DNA and RNA. DNA is, imagine that you have a double-stranded helix. So basically, this particular, I would say, macromolecules in every single cell in our body. Every single cell in our body has the same, I would say, basic, let's call it genome, because that is in biology called genome. So each one of us has a very specific individual set of genes, which is called like a genome for a specific individual. Now, we know when we look at our body that not all the cells are the same, right? So our skin cell is different, right? To our eye cell is different to our lip cell. We know that our heart is built differently to our liver cell, right? And so on. So we have so many different types of cells. However, they have the same amount of genetic material in every single one of them. How is this possible, right? That it's like a copy of the same cell, but they look different, right? They represent something else on the outside. They have different functions. We know that if we want to, let's say, digest something, right? Our cells are going to secrete certain enzymes, but our skin cannot do it, right? Our skin cannot secrete enzymes to digest, let's say, protein, right? If we want to move, we have to use our muscles, and they are built differently to our bones, or even to our, let's say, skin again, right? They don't have the same function. So how is this possible? It is possible because even though the DNA, let's say, size, the DNA structure is the same in every single cell, the expression of the DNA is different. So the expression in our skin cell is different to the expression of the genes in the liver. And every single one of them will have, or maybe let's say when we combine them as groups, they will have a different expression to another group. So for example, all the skin cells will have a different gene expression to the liver cells. Muscle cells will have a different gene expression to the bone cells. This one is, I would say, the future in general of also our planet, to understand how it works. It's like absolutely crucial. The biggest part of medicine, I would say, is based on understanding how this works. So basically, this is a DNA chain here. So we have only 4 different types of nucleotides. So basically, as you can see in this picture, that's why I didn't want to talk about it before. This one, this is like a pentagon, right? So we have, I think actually it's a hexagon, but I'm not sure, ribose. So basically, because one of them is oxidized, so we have a sugar. This is the basic molecule that builds a nucleotide. Then we add other things to it, but the basic structure of our DNA is built on sugar here. And then we have they are called nucleotides, but these are like other chemical, I would say, components. And just remember, I think everyone had it like in probably high school, that in, let's say, based on their chemical structure, they can pair only in one way. So A always pairs with T, and G always pairs with C, and the other way around, C with G and T and A. They cannot pair the other way around. Why? Because as you can see here, we have here only 2 lines, and here we have 3 lines. They represent something that is called a hydrogen bond. So basically between adenine and thymine, we have only 2 possible hydrogen bonds. Between guanine and cytosine, we have 3. That comes from their chemical structure. If we try to bond TNG and CNA, it just simply cannot happen because the chemical structure does not allow it. There is not enough, I would say, room. The molecules are not present to build this hydrogen, I would say, connection. So the most important role of nucleic acids is to encode information. So imagine this is like a big bank of information that every single cell in our body has and knows what to do. Okay, so I hope you had a brief look at all these pictures here. I want to just quickly go back to lipids. Because this is also, that might give you like, let's say, more understanding why lipids and like / fats are so important. So again, going back to the big balloon, like the membrane is built of these. So what you can see here, the inner part, right, the yellow or orange part is also represented here. And this one is called, in a singular unit, that's the tail. And this one, the red one, is called the head. So we have all the heads here and the tails we have here. Why is it like that? The heads are hydrolyphic, which means in biology that they are not afraid of water. So imagine that this is the outside of the cell on this side. So this is the cell, right, inside here. And right above here, this is the outside. So let's say the cell is swimming in a pool of water. So these heads are actually hydrolyphic, which means that they are not afraid of water. So they can, let's say, contact water. But these ones, the tails, are hydrophobic. That means that they are afraid of water and kind of they cannot have a contact with water. They hide inside. So this is like a double layer. And then please have a look here. This is really important to understand. So what is written here, the top part is called saturated fatty acid. Saturated means that it's kind of full. We cannot pretty much do anything about it. It's quite stable. Unsaturated fatty acid means that this part is more like unstable. This part is more unstable. That's why unsaturated fatty acids are in general unstable fats. So for example, if we heat them up, if we use too much UV exposure, even oxygen in the air will cause oxidation and basically will have rancid fatty acids, which are extremely toxic to the body. They're even more toxic than sugar. That's why when we heat up any fat, we should make sure that we are using saturated fatty acids. And I will give you a few examples of them. So for example, coconut oil, which luckily is very much available in Indonesia and Southeast Asia in general, I would say in the entire world right now, is mostly made of saturated fatty acids. And then we have palm oil as well. But unfortunately, most oils that I can see that people use in, let's say, street cooking or sometimes in their households is the really, really cheap and bad quality oils like canola oil, soybean oil. Why are they so toxic? Because they consist of many, many different chains of unsaturated fatty acids. So what happens when we cook them, when we put them on a pan and we heat them up, there is lots of chemical reactions that happen. Basically, this whole structure gets very unstable and it's going to be oxidized. And on top of that, this reaction also creates a lot of free radicals, and they unfortunately have, what do you call it? They can destroy membranes, they can destroy many different, I would say, structures, organelles. So, and it's like a chain reaction. Once there is one free radical, it's going to destroy other atoms. I mean, it's going to create more free radicals. And until it's stopped, the chain reaction happens. That's why it is so important, because once we incorporate fats, they are going to be actually building our membranes. And if our membranes are badly built, they cannot do their function. So that means the transportation from the outside of the cell to the inside cannot happen properly. The toxins cannot be removed properly. Imagine that the balloon all of a sudden is not like round, but it's like kind of folded. It cannot perform its functions. So basically, if that happens to a singular unit and we have billions of them and they cannot function properly, we can start feeling sick. And it will have.
My apology, Karolina.
Yes.
Yeah, you have 15 minutes to go on your presentation.
Only 10 minutes?
Yeah? 15 minutes. 15.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I will speed up right now because I did not realize the time was flying so fast.
Yes,
okay,
sure.
So this is like the basics. So yeah, genetics, I will go very briefly then like through it. So genetics is the branch of biology that deals with the study of genes, heredity, so how things are, let's say, passed down through generations, and variation in living organisms. It plays a central role in understanding how traits and characteristics are passed from one generation to the next. I hope that's clear. And the next one is biotechnology. This one is a massive, massive thing. So I'm not going to even read it. Let me just go further. Biotechnology is like how we apply all these, let's say, parts of science. These are the most common applications. So if you have a look, I divided them only into 4. So the first one is the medical one. So the whole pharma industry is based on biology. Basically, this is also part of medicine. Then we have gene therapy. Then we have hormone therapy, like for example, insulin. I'm going to talk about it in a second. The whole reproduction biology is here as well, organ transplants. Then we have the whole section of food and agriculture. So we have GMO, like again, I will talk about it briefly soon, animal breeding. Then we have pesticides, food technology. Then we have the whole area of the environment. So for example, how we can use biology for cleaning oil spills, how we can use it to create biofuels, and also for public safety. And others, like for example, biology can be used, of course, in forensic science and vaccines. Of course, they can be also here in the medical, let's say, area. Okay, let me just discuss them briefly. So we have medical applications. So this one, I think it's quite well known. So antibiotics, right? So it turned out that I think that was over 100 years ago, or maybe 200 years ago, penicillin was discovered. So basically, certain microorganisms, they produce, let's say, some waste, like metabolites. So it turned out that there is a mold, which is a fungi, which is called Penicillium, produces penicillin. So this is a metabolite of a mold that can kill bacteria. So basically, antibiotics are used to treat or even sometimes prevent certain type of bacterial infections. Please remember, they do not work on viral infections. So for example, if someone has COVID or flu or any kind of like viral infections, antibiotics cannot work on them because simply they have a different way of functioning. Next one, hormone therapy. This one is like, I would say, quite important. So I took insulin as an example. So insulin, basically, let's say globally, we have a major problem right now with diabetes. At this point, I think we know like 4 different types of diabetes. The most prevalent is type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is the one that we actually are born this way. Type 2 is when we kind of have a bad diet, and that leads to this kind of diabetes. Now, how does it work? So basically, when in our blood, the sugar level should be always kept very strictly in a certain range. If it goes too high or too low, it leads to most likely to a coma and death. We need sugar to actually live. We have to produce energy, but if it goes too high or too low, the consequences can be quite dramatic. And the hormone that is actually protein is called insulin, and is released by our pancreas to keep this range in these very, very strict numbers. Sometimes our pancreas cannot produce enough insulin, or on the other hand, the insulin will not have the same effect on the cells. So for example, the body produces insulin, but we already, our receptors in the cells got too much. They don't respond to this insulin. So basically, they are kind of like, they don't know what's happening. Let's put it this way. And even though insulin is present, they cannot react properly. So this one we call already insulin resistance. And if it's not treated properly, it will lead to diabetes type 2, and then people usually have to take insulin. So here, just I hope interesting info. In 2021, the International Diabetes Federation estimated that over 500 million adults, which is 10% of the global population, were living with diabetes. This number is expected to increase to over 600 million by 2030. And nearly like 800 million by 2042. I think these numbers are not correct. I think they are lowered. I think the real numbers are much higher because people many times do not know that they have insulin resistance or they already have diabetes type 2. So they have lots of symptoms, but simply they cannot, they don't know, they don't go to a doctor to have a checkup, so they really don't know. So now how does it work in biotechnology? So we can produce insulin because basically we have to do it if we have sick people, right? So this picture I think is not very clear for you. So basically we can use bacteria. As I said before at the very beginning, bacteria are different. Their cells are different to our cells. So as you can see in this picture, I hope it's visible, their let's say genetic material is different. It's like it's a plasmid, which means it's a round, let's say, round nucleic acid, and that is why it is very easy to manipulate it. So what we can do is actually take it out. We can insert the gene that codes insulin and then put it back. We can put it back in the fermentation tank, so we know that bacteria multiply very quickly, so they can multiply in a massive way, and then this gene is going to be expressed, which means it's going to produce insulin, and that insulin can be harvested, so it can be used for treatment. Of course, the process is like really complicated, but this is like the very basic understanding of it. Next one, we can also use in biotechnology, we can use this biotechnology knowledge in reproduction therapy. So for example, if a couple has difficulty conceiving a baby, so right now there is another option, which is in vitro fertilization. In vitro means this is happening kind of outside of the body. So we can, first of all, we actually give some drugs to a woman to stimulate egg production. Then the eggs are surgically removed from the ovaries. Then that is happening usually in the petri dish. So basically the eggs are fertilized. Usually in one go, there's many fertilized eggs because some of them most likely will die, some will survive. And then one or more fertilized eggs, like they're already called embryos, are going to be transferred back to transferred to the uterus. And uterus will not accept most of them, or maybe just some of them, mostly like one, maybe two. And then once the embryo attaches to the uterine lining, then the pregnancy can start. So this one is, I think, mostly in the States, quite popular. I'm not sure about Asia. Then we have organ transplants. So this one probably is also the future, because right now we know that many people have to wait for organ transplants. The waiting lists are sometimes really, really long. Many people die before they get the transplant. So when I worked in a lab, that was like over 10 years ago, there was a lady who was actually performing something really amazing. She was building a human heart from scratch. She knew it would fail because at this point, I think no one has done it in the world. She was doing her PhD in this area. So basically she was like combining different heart cells to grow them into a human heart. Very complicated. I think she told me that the success rate is like about 3%. So, but scientists are learning more and more how to do it. We already have artificial hearts, but this is something new that you can see here in the picture. So I'm going to just quickly read it. The first xenotransplant into a living person, into a human, happened in 2022, when a 57-year-old David Bennett received a pig heart and survived for 60 days after the procedure. So that was like 3 years ago. A second man, Lawrence Fawcett, received a pig heart in 2023 and survived for 40 days. So that can come as a surprise, right? You can see like a super simple, let's say, representation of how that happened. So that was in January 2022 at the University of Maryland Medical Center. So it's not only that we take out the pig's heart and we put it in a human's heart, because that would never work. So what they did, they actually did some engineering. So they edited 10 genes. They shut down some of them so the human body would not react with the immune system. So basically the whole thing was quite complicated, because they had to first do some research which genes are responsible for certain reactions. And then eventually it was possible. I don't know why, I did not go that far, why the humans died, but let's say organ harvesting this way can be also a future for people who need organ transplants. Okay, let's move on. This one is massive, food and agriculture applications. This is happening all around the world right now. It's been happening for many years. So the most important one is GMO. I think when I lived in Indonesia, I've read that certain crops actually were GMO crops. So GMO stands for genetically modified foods. These are foods that have been altered using genetic engineering. They can be plants, they can be animals, microbes, fish, all sorts of different, I would say, living organisms. Now, how it works. So basically, the process is, it takes a few steps. So for example, we have to first identify a desired trait. So for example, something like a gene that controls, here we have like a disease resistance or drought tolerance or insect resistance. So once we know that, oh, we want corn that is resistant to this particular type of insect, or maybe it will be resistant to drought or whatever we want, we isolate the gene. So basically we extract that part of DNA that we need, that has this desired gene. We have to amplify it. So we copy this particular gene many times, and then we insert the gene into the DNA of the organism that we want to modify. So for example, we have a plant that is resistant to a specific type of insect, but our corn doesn't have the gene. So what we can do, we can extract that particular gene and insert it in the corn that we want. Usually we need another organism to do it, and it's either, I'm not sure if they use viruses or they use bacteria, or because I know that this is like really advanced technology right now, so I'm not sure which kind of manipulation they use right now. But in the past they used like a third party, so there was another organism that would deliver, like a bacteria, right? Like another infection that would deliver the desired gene to the plant or animal that we want. Then we have to check if the organism has it. So we have to kind of multiply it and then expose it to the, let's say, to the drought that we are expecting to happen, maybe to the insect, and see if that really works. Now, most GMOs are not, in my opinion, maybe not even in my opinion, they are not tested enough. In the US, there is like always green light to produce as much food as possible without really testing stuff. European law is way more strict. There are only a few different plants that are, let's say, accepted as GMO, but many people don't know what it is. They don't feel safe. They don't know what the consequences of eating GMO foods are. In Asia, I know that rice is GMO and a few other plants, but again, I did not do enough research in that area. So here we have the most common GMO plants. So we have corn. This one is mostly happening in South America. And then we have soybean. This one is in Asia mostly. Potatoes. I know that potatoes, I think, were accepted in the European Union. Papaya. This one is in Asia. Apples. I think China produces a lot of GMO apples. And I'm not sure about Japan and New Zealand, but probably yes. And pumpkin. There's plenty of them that we don't know about, but basically they're out there. Okay, I think I have like around 5 minutes, so I'll try to be super fast. And then we have animal breeding. So breeders use technologies like artificial insemination. Then we have embryo transfer and cryopreservation. So basically, breeders around the world, they try to improve the quality and yield of livestock products, like for example, milk, butter, meat, right? When we have a cow that we use for steaks or leather or whatever we want, right? We want this cow to produce a lot of meat, or we want this particular cow to produce a lot of milk. So genetical engineering can actually do it right now. So we can alternate, edit their genes, and make them, let's say, the way we want them to be. Then we have pesticides. I think pesticides are quite well known everywhere. So they are like very heavy chemicals, and they can cause a lot of diseases. So basically, if we spray them onto some plants, we will at some point also incorporate them. So we know the consequences of incorporating pesticides. So there are also biopesticides, and there are certain types of pesticides derived from such natural materials as animals, plants, bacteria, and certain minerals. So we can have an example be like canola oil and baking soda. They can be used as biopesticides, and in 2020 there were like 390 registered biopesticides active ingredients. So we don't sometimes have to use like heavy chemicals. We can use other biopesticides to, let's say, secure or prevent certain diseases in our crops. Please remember also that most plants actually, they produce their own natural pesticides. Plants can produce extremely toxic and harmful substances, and most of them do. We can only eat a certain number of plants in the world. The rest of them are extremely toxic. Because they cannot run away, so they actually like animals, right? They cannot. Animals can run away and hide from their predators. Plants cannot do it, so they had to create like their own protection system. And in this case, these are mostly pesticides or other toxins. Okay, next one is food technology. This one is used all around the world. All possible, I think, tribes, populations use some kind of food technology. So this is a science that is about producing, preserving, ensuring the quality of food. So there are so many different ways. So for example, fermentation is one of them. This one is quite popular in my country and in some countries in Europe. So sauerkraut is a type of fermented cabbage with major health benefits. Probably it originated in China more than 2,000 years ago. And basically, it was and it still is a way to keep the food, I don't want to say fresh, but to keep it away from getting spoiled quickly. It is also extremely healthy because there is lots of very good bacteria strains that can benefit our bodies, so they can actually prevent us from diseases. So we have in my country lots of dishes based on fermented cabbage. Many people don't know that a lot of popular products are also fermented products. Like for example, coffee is a fermented product. Also, chocolate is a fermented product. Cheese, wine, many different products go through a step of fermentation. Okay, next one we have environmental applications. So here we can use biology, specifically some microbes to clean oil spills. We call it bioremediation. Mostly we use bacteria, fungi, and some plants, so they can break down oil into carbon dioxide and water. Here we have an example. So they are called in Latin Pseudomonas. It's a gram-negative bacteria that can be found in soil, water, plants, and animals. So Pseudomonas putida is a species of Pseudomonas that can often be used in oil spill bioremediation. We know that in the past that was maybe not quite common, but it happened many times that big ships all of a sudden hit something and there was an oil spill and people didn't know what to do. The whole environment was destroyed, fish were killed, and the pollution was literally all over the place. Then we have
My apology again, Karolina. The time is up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Time is up, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Should I stop the presentation right now?
Just this one. Biofuels, perhaps you can add this
yeah.
one.
Okay, so just as an example, so ethanol is a alcohol that can be used and added to regular fuel. So we can use crops like like corn or maybe sugar cane or like even wooden logs to create ethanol, and basically, yeah, that would work as a biofuel. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I will stop here then.
Yeah, thank you for the wonderful presentation, Carolina. So this one, I am really amazed listening to your presentation here. It seems that I get for creative lecture for biology since I last studied biology about 3 decades ago, long time ago. Yeah, this one. It's really very wonderful to listen about your presentation. You have explained about the fundamental functions of protein, fats, and then carbohydrates for our body. And then also discussing about genetics and biotechnology and the application in the real lives. Yeah. Thank you very much. And then now we come to the question and answer sessions. Yeah. Since I don't see questions. Yeah, okay. So this one I have the reminder. So we will go on to the next keynote speaker. So really, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation, Carolina. So hopefully that you can uh, or we can meet again in the next occasion, perhaps, yeah. And also, we hope that you can visit Universitas Muhammadiyah Jember again next time. Thank you very much for the dear participant. Also, I thank for your patient attention for the presentation of Carolina. Actually, I have a lot of questions in my mind, but unfortunately, we have to end the session here. Thank you very much. Please give greatest applause to Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I hope it was interesting and you like that. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Then because we will invite the next keynote speaker, so I would like to give the screen to the master of ceremony. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone. See you next time.
Bye.